Voice of Korea.
This is Voice of Korea.
This is Voice of Korea.
This is Voice of Korea.
Now we begin the English language transmission from Pyongyang, the capital of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
Here is the mixed chorus. Song of General Kim Il-sung. Now bring your middle chorus, Song of General Kim Jong-il. To Voice of Korea News Now. The Swiss Group for the Study of the Church Idea posted on its internet page on March the 28th. 5. The historic significance of the Church Idea from the great leader Kim Jong-un's famous work on the Church Idea. Detailed the gist of the concluding speech made by respected Kim Jong-un at the National Meeting of Light Industrial Workers was carried on the internet homepage of the Nigerian National Committee for the Study of the Church Idea on March the 26th. The International United Confederation of Koreans published a March issue of its monthly socio-political magazine, onward. The magazine later detailed a report of inspection of units of the People's Army by respected Marshal Kim Jong-un, carrying a photograph of his inspection of the Woolly Island Defense Detachment, an outpost in the hottest spot on the western front with the Banyo Island within hailing distance, and photographs of his guidance to target practice for estimating the combat capabilities of artillery sub-units in the hot spot to be involved in the strike on the Pyongyang Island. The magazine introduced a decision on meeting the 65th anniversary of the DPRK and the 60th anniversary of the Korean people's victory in the Fatherland Liberation War as grand festivals of victors, adopted at a meeting of the Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea. It highlighted a statement of a spokesman for the Supreme Command of the Korean People's Army and other official documents which clarified the principled stand of the DPRK on the recent acute situation of the Korean Peninsula. Besides, the magazine carried international news and so on. Army people rallies were held in Songnam City, Yunnan County, and other cities, districts, and counties to support the statements of the Supreme Command of the Korean People's Army and win the final victory in the decisive all-people resistance against the aggressors, including the U.S. imperialists and the South Korean traitors. Present there were officials of the local party and government organs and working people's organizations, service persons of the Korean People's Army, and officials, working people, teachers and students of industrial establishments, cooperative firms, universities and colleges. At the rallies held in Sangnim and Hamhung cities and others, the statement of the Supreme Command of the Korean People's Army was read out and speeches made. Speakers said all people should turn out in the struggle to terminate the anti-imperialist, anti-US resistance and make a fresh upsurge in the building of an economic giant, remaining faithful to the ideal and leadership of respected Kim Jong-un. After the rallies, the participants staged demonstrations. Preparations are active for cultivation of more flowers across the country to village streets, villages, parks and pleasure grounds with the approach of the spring-April holidays. Beautiful flowers have been cultivated even in winter and are now in full bloom in the Pyongyang Floricultural Institute, the Pyongyang City Floricultural Farm and various other units. The weather of early spring is still cold, but flowers in all greenhouses open lovely leaves and put forth shining buds. Foliage plants and beautiful flower plants are growing in the greenhouses. The flowers to be used for floral baskets and bouquets are about to put forth buds in all parts of the country. The delegation of the Indian Foreign Ministry, led by Joint Secretary for East Asia Department, Gautam Himanta Gambawale, visited Nanjing, the birthplace of President Kim Il-sung, on April the 5th. The delegation also visited the Tower of the Church Idea, the Arch of Triumph, and others. The PRK delegate made a speech at a meeting of the UN Disarmament Committee on April the 1st. She said, a nuclear war is on the verge of explosion in the Korean Peninsula due to the nuclear threat and blackmail of the United States, the world's largest nuclear state, and made clear the stance of the TPRK on the nuclear disarmament. She said the North Korean threat and provocation doggedly talked about by the United States concerning the situation of the Korean Peninsula are grounded in sophistry and continues. The situation of the Korean Peninsula running to an explosive war state as of today is a product of the extreme personal policy towards the DPRK pursued by the United States that dared to negate the legitimate right of a sovereign state to satellite launch and drop the situation of the Korean Peninsula to a total war. The military countermeasures taken by the DPRK are just self-defense measures to cope with the war moves of the United States. The United States will learn a bitter lesson that the DPRK is neither Iraq nor Libya. Under the condition that the world's largest nuclear state, the United States, poses a constant nuclear threat to us, we cannot, but further strengthen nuclear arms qualitatively and quantitatively, holding the nuclear weapons more firmly. The March 2013 plenary meeting of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea set forth a new strategic line on building the economy and nuclear armed forces simultaneously according to the demand of the prevailing situation. Our nuclear arms are the life of the nation and treasure of a will-be reunified Korea, which cannot be abandoned, nor can be battered for any amount of gold so long as imperialism remains and nuclear threat exists on the globe. The DPRK, as a responsible nuclear state, will make active efforts to prevent nuclear proliferation, defend peace and security of Asia and the rest of the world, and denuclearize the world, the DPRK delegate stressed. The statement of the Supreme Command of the Korean People's Army, our army and people will demonstrate their resolute will for countermeasures through practical military action, was distributed as official document as 2013 196 of the UN Security Council on April the 2nd. The statement of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the DPRK, dated March the 26th, concerning the U.S. hostilities against the DPRK on the verge of a nuclear war, was distributed as official document as 2013 194 of the UN Security Council on April the 1st. The People's Action for Peace Against War was formed in Seoul, South Korea, involving more than 30 organizations, including the South headquarters of the Pan-National Alliance for Korea's Reunification, the Solidarity for Progress, and the Solidarity for Democracy, People's Life, Peaceful Reunification and Sovereignty. A press conference was held on the 3rd, declaring the formation of the organization. On the other hand, the South Korean internet radio Voice of People posted a commentary on the 4th and called upon the people of both sections to turn out in the anti-war struggle. Statements were recently issued by the Socialist Party of Benin, the Bulgarian Communist Union, the Bulgaria Korea Friendship Association, the March the 26th Movement of Uruguay, the Ethiopian Youth Committee for the Study of the Church Idea, and leaders at the Kim Il-sung Library in Sofia. Joint statements by the Italian Freedom Group for the Study of Kim Il-sungism, Kim Jong-ilism, and the Italy DPRK Friendship and Solidarity Association, by the Belarus DPRK National Fellowship Association, named after Kim Il-sung, the Social Federation for the Union and Union's Communist Party, and other organizations of Belarus, and by the Peruvian National Independence Movement for Free Voting Union, and the Peruvian Committee for Supporting the Independent and Peaceful Reunification of Korea, and press statements by the chairman of the National Salvation Front of Russia and the chairman of the Bangladesh Group for the Study of Sundan Policy, fully supporting the statements of the Supreme Commander of the Korean People's Army and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the DPRK. And that's the end of the news, read by Lee Hyang-sim. This is Voice of Korea. The Daily Rodong Shinmun of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea carried a commentary on Saturday under the title, Criminal Plot for Biochemical War. The commentary said, some time ago, the 23rd Chemical Battalion of the U.S. Army from the U.S. mainland was redeployed in the 2nd Division of the U.S. Imperialist Aggressive Forces in South Korea. It is very embodied that the battalion, which had withdrawn to the U.S. mainland in 2004, was redeployed in the Korean Peninsula 9 years later. It is a manifestation of the wicked plot to mobilize all means and methods, including biochemical warfare, in another Korean war. So we cannot but take a serious view of it. The redeployment of the 23rd Chemical Battalion proves that the United States is speeding up preparations for a war on the North in all aspects. The redeployment reveals that the United States is grossly violating and ignoring the international norms which ban use and proliferation of weapons of mass destruction in the world. It admits of no argument that in case of a nuclear war on the Korean Peninsula, the U.S. imperialists intend to use biochemical weapons as the last resort. The U.S. imperialists and the South Korean puppets should not act rashly, bearing in mind that even biochemical weapons cannot save them from death. That was the commentary under the title, Criminal Plot for Biochemical War, carried in the Daily Rodong Shinmun of the DPRK on Saturday. This is Voice of Korea. You know, Prisoner Philip chorus, we entrust our destiny and future to him.
This is a note of Cheonghan in Taebodong, Potonggang District, Pyongyang, the capital of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. My heart still warm with his love. My longing for the great leader President Kim Il-sung is increasingly warm with the approach of his birth anniversary, April 15th. My family also enjoyed the paternal love of President Kim Il-sung, who devoted his whole life to the welfare of the people. Tens of years has passed, but still vivid in my eyes is the moment when I was happy in the arms of President Kim Il-sung. It was January 10th, 1949 or 1960. Nobody had dreamed that on the day the fatherly leader President Kim Il-sung would visit my home of an ordinary citizen of the capital city. It was so unexpected that my mother could not offer proper greetings to him because of gratitude and great excitement. He read my mother's feelings, wearing a bright smile on his face, put me on his laps, and kindly asked about our lives, about the number of rooms and family members, the heating facility, and if we were not cold, and if there were any difficulties in life. As a matter of fact, the living condition of my family was not so bad at the time. My mother frankly said to him that the structure of the house and living conditions were all nice. President Kim Il-sung brightly smiled again and asked how we were using drinking water without tap. The moment, my mother was greatly moved. She was too grateful for his visit to her house and could not think, even in dreams, that she had learned that we had not tap water. In fact, water is part of the life to the housewives. But as water wagon was regularly supplying water, we did not feel great difficulty. So my mother said there was no problem. President Kim Il-sung said again that we would not be satisfied with the supplied water. Then he told officials to lay water pipeline quickly and solve the issue of drinking water. Indeed, we saw our father in him. He said in the future, the heating system should be re-established and cooking be done with gas, so that the people could live in a clean and cultured environment, and it is precisely the people's ideal street. Officials and my mother and family members felt the sense, the increasingly warm love of the great father President Kim Il-sung for the people. Now I often tell my children not to forget the love of President Kim Il-sung forever. His lofty intention to provide the people with a happy life is represented in the streets and houses in different parts of the capital city. Solima Street, Yeonggwang Street, Munsu Street, Gwangbok Street, Cheongil Street, and other parts of Pyongyang are permeated with the love for people of President Kim Il-sung and the great leader Kim Jong-il, who was true to his intention all his life. The ever-changing view of the capital Pyongyang warms up my heart all the more. Respected Marshal Kim Jong-un, who visited the houses of workers and office workers in the new Changbo Street, resembled President Kim Il-sung, who visited my house tens of years ago. The love of President Kim Il-sung shown to my family is invariably shown to all houses across the country, making the people happy. Been listening to a note under the title, My Heart Still Warm with His Love. This is Voice of Korea.
Here is a female soul and mixed bangtan. The leader and the general are the same. this time, you enjoy an orchestral music. Do not advance. Night of Pyongyang.
at the firm will of the Korean army and people with the spirit of resolute defense of the leader. A song is ringing, representing the resolute will for countermeasures of the Korean army and people burning with indignation and revenge. Rifles are the precious swords of revolution taken by 10 millions. We hold up the rifles sharpened by the wheel of Mount Hector. Our rifles will not forgive those who infringe upon the dignity of Korea. Not only the service personnel, but also all the Korean people are waiting for an order for a sacred war for national reunification. The U.S. imperialists fabricated so-called resolutions on sanctions against the DPRK in succession under the pretext of its peaceful satellite launch and self-defensive underground nuclear test, and went so far as to conduct large-scale nuclear war exercises. The White House, which often cried for peace, has revealed its despicable nature. The nuclear war exercises conducted by the U.S. imperialists together with the South Korean puppets are aimed at the supreme headquarters of Korea. The warmongers released outbursts that they would make missile strike on the bronze statues of the great leaders Generalissimos Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, and monuments to immortality and praise for the leaders erected in Pyongyang and all other parts of the country. Upon the statement of the Supreme Command of the Korean People's Army, the army men and people expressed indignation at the U.S. imperialists. Really indignant. How dare to conduct military exercises aimed at our supreme headquarters?
How can they remove the sun and the world? Idiots.
The U.S. imperialists and their followers are quite ignorant of the Koreans. Generalissimos Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, symbol of the powerful Baek-Dusan nation, devoted themselves to the happiness of the country and people, wholly responsible for their destiny and future. That is why the Korean army and people follow them forever, regarding them as the eternal leaders. World progressive humanity also respects Generalissimos Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il as the greatest of great men, and visit their bronze statues and pay boundless respect to them during their visit to Pyongyang. The U.S. imperialists' blasphemy stabbing at such feelings of reverence of the Korean people and the progressive humanity is little different from the declaration of war on Korea. Of Korea, sharpened for decades, can never pardon such reckless acts. Our arms are for the socialist fatherland and people, and represent invariable firm will of the army and people to defend the great Generalissimos Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il and respected Marshal Kim Jong-un at the risk of their lives.
얼마 전 경의하는 원수님께서는 말씀하셨습니다. 원수들을 무자비하게 진행해버리고 항복사의 도장을 쓰는 놈도.
Some time ago, respected Marshal Kim Jong-un said the enemy should be totally wiped out, lest anyone should sign an instrument of surrender.
우리 10만 국민은 모두가 최고 사령부를
All our army and the people will become the fortress and shield to resolutely defend the supreme headquarters and the born true, and sweep away the aggressors from this land, me from the earth for good and all.
전 강정여도 내가 다른 놈을 쓰고 진영만 멈춘다면
If the Supreme Command Kim Jong-un gives an order, I'll become a nuclear bomb to destroy the citadel of the enemy to pieces. rifles are the ever-victorious lightning to annihilate the enemy. We sharpen our rifles to guarantee the future of our powerful country. Our rifles will not forgive those who stand in the way of the cause of the general. The imperialists should clearly know that the right to preemptive attack is not a monopoly. A self-defensive nuclear-armed force that can strike anyone who dares to insult the dignity of the supreme leadership of Korea are waiting for the order of retaliation every moment. Now the world conscience will see and hear the fireworks of the final victory Korea lets off after firmly defending the dignity of its supreme leadership and building a reunified, prosperous nation on this land. You've been listening to musical account under the title, Look at the Firm Will of the Korean Army and People with the Spirit of Resolute Defense of the Leader. This is Voice of Korea.
No, we enjoy your being solo. Whoever provokes us can maybe escape this. Enjoy your light music. Look it up. 计划有所关注。
we conclude the English language service of Voice of Korea from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Voice of Korea presents its English language service for Europe between 13 and 14 hours UTC, between 15 and 16 hours UTC, between 18 and 19 hours UTC, and between 21 and 22 hours UTC on 13,760 kHz and 15,245 kHz. For North America, between 13 and 14 hours UTC, and between 15 and 16 hours UTC for 9,435 kHz and 11,710 kHz. And for Northeast Asia, between 4 and 5 hours UTC, and between 6 and 7 hours UTC on 7,220 kHz, 9,445 kHz, and 9,730 kHz. Goodbye, this is Pyongyang.